If you haven't seen the video that went out in the last couple of days about what I consider to be the top 3 fun DPS specs in Wrath of the Lich King, definitely check that out after you've seen this. But today we're going to have a quick run through all the healers in Wrath of the Lich King and how I would rank them in order of fun. This is by no means a tier list where I say, oh, Druid is S tier, Holy Paladin's D tier, or anything like that. This is an extremely subjective video where actually it is just my opinion. It's what I have the most fun playing on. So it's not about throughput, it's not about mana efficiency, it's not about the toolkit and what they bring. It's what I would say is the most fun healer to play. Now, toolkit will come into that actually a little bit, because the more diverse the toolkit you've got, probably the more fun the spec is going to be to play. So firstly, if we talk about the Resto Druid, the Resto Druid hasn't really changed that much. It is all hot base still. You're going to be keeping up some life blooms, some rejuves, using regrowth where you need to, and now you've got your new ability, Wild Growth, which heals up to 5 friendly party or raid members within 15 yards of the target for 686 over 7 seconds. The amount healed is applied quickly at first and then slows down as the Wild Growth reaches its full duration. Now, it's really nice to have an AoE hot, obviously, and it's very unique in terms of what it does and how it works, because most healing specs have got some form of AoE, but having an AoE that's actually a hot is just amazing. You of course also bring Revitalize, which gives your Rejuve and Wild Growth spells a chance to restore energy, rage, mana, runic power on each tick, which of course is a DPS gain to your raid, but doesn't necessarily make it more fun. The thing that does make Resto Druid fun is how Life Bloom works now. So Life Bloom heals your target over 7 seconds, and when Life Bloom completes its duration or is dispelled, the target instantly heals themselves and the Druid regains half the cost of the spell. So the fun interaction here is making sure that you Life Bloom when Omen of Clarity procs. So you're going to get a free cast of your Life Bloom, but gain half of the mana back from it as well. So it's a way to constantly be getting mana back through the fight in another way that's not just MP5 or Innovate. Now for me, this is where some of the fun actually lies as a Resto Druid. So knowing fights is extremely important. So if you're going into a fight like Sapphiron, for example, is a prime example in tier 7, you know that there's going to be constant AoE, so you can almost global cap yourself by just Rejuve, Wild Growth, Rejuve, Wild Growth, you know, constantly, which I wouldn't say that's particularly fun, but then weaving in whenever you see a clear casting go off, boom, you use Life Bloom and you know you're going to get some mana back. Like, that is actually quite fun. And when you see all of those hots going off and you've just got green numbers all over your screen during boss fights, you know, that can be quite rewarding. But ultimately, the Resto Druid isn't one that I'd say is overly fun. I think there are more fun healing specs to play, so let's move on to the next. In terms of having to understand boss fights, the Holy Paladin is very similar to the Resto Druid, but for different reasons. So the Resto Druid will preemptively hot all of the raid, knowing that in X amount of seconds, there'll be some AoE damage coming into the raid. The Holy Paladin needs to understand when the damage is coming in, because when there's a downtime in damage, you want to use your Divine Plea. Now, your Divine Plea will give you mana back, but being able to go into melee and hit a boss with Judgment of Wisdom on, whilst Divine Plea is up, it means you can more or less get a full mana bar back in that 15-second window. But of course, you don't want to be doing that when there's loads of damage coming in. So you need to know when there is them spikes in damage and when there's those periods of no damage or low damage that you can afford to go and use that time to get your mana back for when you need it. But the Holy Paladin really just pumps out massive numbers. Having Beacon of Light so you can heal 2 targets at a time, and then the target that you're healing with your Holy Light is splashing using Glyph of Holy Light, so all the melee around are getting like 10% of that heal at the same time. Having Holy Shock to use when you're moving, or just for a quick heal on someone. Having so many cooldowns like Divine Illumination, reducing the mana cost of your spells, or being able to pop your wings and do even more healing. It makes for a very unique experience, because you bring things like Aura Mastery as well, so you can stop your raid getting silenced at certain times. You can bring Divine Guardian, which is going to be a raid-wide 20% damage reduction for 6 seconds. This on top of Blessings and Auras, you really are just a utility machine. But in terms of fun, there's not that much to it, and there's not really many procs that you need to look for. Well, there's no procs that you're looking for, and ultimately, you're going to have Beacon of Light on your tank, and you're just going to be Holy Lighting anyone else who takes damage, preferably healing anyone in melee, so all the rest of the melee with the Glyph of Holy Light are taking additional healing. The only real complexity or rewarding moments come from when you are nearly and then you can go and get full mana by hitting the boss. And that doesn't sound fun, but when all the other healers are like screaming out for innovates and stuff like that, and you can just go, oh, I'm alright, just somebody else cover the raid for a sec, I'm just going to go and get full mana, and then you can just keep pumping. It is quite fun. I'd just say it's not that engaging. So I'm a big fan of the Holy Paladin and really do enjoy playing a Holy Paladin to the point where it is going to be my second main in Wrath of the Lich King Classic because I really enjoy playing it. But in terms of fun out of all of the healers, I wouldn't rank it much higher than Resto Druid if I'm completely honest. So now you know how this list is going, you might think you're going to know what the best healer is or what I find the most fun healer once I tell you what this one's going to be. But you won't. But it will be between two because we've only got 3 healing specs left. And what's coming in next for me is Disc Priest. Now, Disc Priest can be fun if you really are ruled by meters because when you're pre-bubbling everyone before some AoE comes in, nobody else's heal's going to even get a chance to do anything. Because with things like Borrowed Time, which gives you spell haste after you cast a power word shield, it means you need such low levels of haste to get your shield down to a 1-second GCD that is absolutely amazing. And you bring some really strong cooldowns like Pain Suppression and even Power Infusion for your casters, which they're absolutely going to love. And because of a talent called Rapture, which doesn't just give you mana back when shields are absorbed, it also gives the person who had the bubble mana, rage, energy, or runic power. So this is like the Discipline Priest version of Revitalize for the Resto Druid. Now, the thing I do find fun about a Disc Priest is being that guy who knows how every boss fight works, predicting who's going to be taking the damage next and getting a bubble on them before they take the damage. That is what makes this a fun and engaging spec. It doesn't actually come down to the rotation because ultimately you're going to be using lots and lots of bubbles, prayer amending on cooldown, and penance on cooldown. Outside of that, there ain't that much to do. The vast majority of your healing is going to come from bubbling people, but knowing when to bubble is the key and what keeps you on your toes. It's what ultimately makes this a fun spec to play. Because if you're a Disc Priest who's waiting for people to take damage to heal them reactively, that's not going to work. You need to preemptively be getting up these shields on as many people as possible, so when that big AoE comes in, you'll go from being on bottom of the healing meter to top of the healing meter in a couple of seconds. And it really does happen like that. You'll be sat there just chugging along in, let's say, 4th, 5th place as the healer, and then all of a sudden, when that damage comes in, boom, your bar will double with the amount of effective healing. And that is one thing that I really do find fun. Obviously, you still have things like Prayer of Healing that you can use, but ultimately, you're just an absorbed machine. Your whole job is to reduce the amount of damage that people are taking rather than actually increasing their health by healing them. I personally quite enjoy playing a Disc Priest. It's not my favourite spec, nor do I consider it the most fun spec, but it is engaging enough to put it above the Holy Paladin and the Resto Druid, in my opinion. So now we've only got 2 healing specs left. What do you think's going to be first? What do you think's going to be second? I'm going to sit here and wait for you to put it in the comments. Oh, we'll just carry on. The next one for me is Resto Shaman. So all you holy priests are probably jumping up and down in excitement now that I think your spec is the most fun to play. But the Resto Shaman has just got so many tools, so many heals, so many totems. You've got so much that you can do to control a fight. Now, most people, myself included, say it's just chain heal spam. You will press chain heal a lot, there's no doubt about it. Chain healing into the melee is very, very fun, and seeing all of those numbers, and you absolutely could go all the way through a Nax run without pressing anything but chain heal. But ultimately, you wouldn't be playing your class as you should be. But with the addition of things like Riptide, so you've actually got a hot now, which also then synergizes really well with chain heal, mind you, because it will consume the hot and increase the amount of your chain heal by 25% when you cast it on the person who's got Riptide. Having Earth Shield to keep up on your tank, and using Tidal Waves. Now, Tidal Waves is amazing because when you chain heal or Riptide, it will lower the cast time of your healing wave, or it'll increase the critical strike chance of your lesser healing wave. And this is for 2 heals. So if you're tank healing, you know, putting a Riptide up and then knowing that you've got 2 nice, quick, big healing waves, or if you're spot healing the raid, using a chain heal to proc tidal waves and then throwing a couple of spot heals around with lesser healing wave. It's just a very fun spec to play because there's so much to do. And like you probably know if you watch my DPS video, I really like procs. I like things that you have to react to. Whilst you don't necessarily react to this because you know it's going to happen after a chain heal or a Riptide, it just means you can mix up the heals you use, and ultimately, if you're a good Resto Shaman, you'll be using these heals on the right people at the right time. So why do 2 chain heals back to back when one chain heal is going to top everybody off, and then there's that one guy who's still at 70%? There's no point chain healing just for that one person. You might as well consume one of your tidal wave procs by using a lesser healing wave on him. Aside from that, being able to get Cleanse Spirit so you can get rid of poison, diseases and curses with one button. Mana Tide Totem to obviously get you and all your healers or your caster DPS, whatever you're in a group with, some mana back. And even getting Earth Living Weapon is absolutely amazing, increasing your healing and giving you a chance to get another little hot that goes on the target. You just have so many different things you can do, and ultimately if you're a good Resto Shaman, you'll be able to perform very well. It might not be that healer that everybody wants to stack or even wants to take in Wrath of the Lich King, because you know, you're going to hear people talk about holy paladins, disc priests, you know, being absolutely bonkers. Now, I'm not saying they're not, and I'm not saying that they're below the Resto Shaman in terms of healing. Remember, I'm talking about absolute, just pure fun. We're not bothered about what the top healer is, or what the best healer is, or what the worst healer is. We're just bothered about what is enjoyable when you're playing it. And Resto Shaman, for me, definitely sits at number 2 in terms of enjoyment. Which means, yes, the Holy Priest is what I consider to be the most fun healing spec. With things like Guardian Spirit, where you can give someone essentially the right to die, but not actually die, or having it glyphed, so that target's taking 40% additional healing for that 10 seconds, but assuming they don't die, you only get a 1-minute cooldown on Guardian Spirit. So being able to increase somebody's healing every 1 minute that they receive by 40% is absolutely huge. And as you know, Holy Priests have so much AoE potential with things like Circle of Healing, Prayer of Healing, Lightwell, joke, and even Empowered Renew, where it's now doing an instant heal when you renew someone, and Surge of Light, so your spell crits have got a chance to cause your next flash heal, obviously Smite as well, but we're only interested in flash heal, to become instant cast and cost no mana. Yes, it can't crit, but it's still free healing. And again, I'm all about procs, so looking out for that. That's something else to look out for. When you see it and then you can just throw an instant cast free flash heal on someone, it's just awesome. And Spirit of Redemption, I know it's a minor one, but it is quite good still anyway. If you do happen to die, at least you can pump out some heals for 15 seconds, and sometimes you might use this as a bit of a kamikaze move because you're completely the fight's only going to last another 20-30 seconds. You're better off actually just stepping in that void zone and getting loads of free healing at the end of the fight. Whilst it sounds like a mad thing to do, it can be useful sometimes, especially if you've got a soul stone on you. But I just like the big toolkit that a Holy Priest brings. Having a heal for every scenario, having procs, getting increased regen from things like Holy Concentration. If you want to use Body and Soul, your tank will love you for being able to bubble somebody to increase their movement speed, for example. Your Disc Priest won't like you, but you know. And ultimately, just as I say, having a heal for no matter what happens. Need a big tank heal? You've got a big tank heal, need to quickly AoE heal a full group, you can get them up nice and quick. And as I say, does it look like your tank's about to die and they're out of cooldowns? Put a Guardian Spirit on them. A Holy Priest really is a jack of all trades. They've got every kind of heal. They've got really powerful hots like Renew as well, let's not forget. And played right, they are actually very mana efficient. And that's it, in order of least fun for me personally to most fun. And remember, this is not what is the most powerful. This is what I consider to have what I have the most fun on when I'm playing. If you agree, let me know. If you disagree, let me know. So let me know in the comments what you think is the most fun from top to bottom. So is Holy Priest the most fun, or do you think Holy Paladin is the most fun? Let me know in the comments, because I'd be interested to have a read through them and see what you enjoy. But ultimately, this was my take on it. Like, subscribe, and do like the video. Costs nothing. Just click the like button. Really helps the video out, get to more people. Check out the Rested XP guide, roll the outro. There's lots of ways you can support the channel to keep me here putting out World of Warcraft content and covering all future MMOs. Consider joining the channel as a member. You get access to emotes, everyone will know you're a member when you comment on future videos because you get a nice icon next to your name, and you get access to members only videos, which I'll be putting a lot of on the channel throughout the year. Additionally, there's a Patreon link in the description as well. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and I'll see you on the next one.